Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever it is in the world you're coming to us from. Welcome to DYOR Live here on the DYOR Media Network. So glad to be hosting another episode of this great show. My name is Tom, otherwise known as Striking. The man on the other side of the screen today is none other than Pedro Garcia, the crypto chart analyst. We got Crypto Mike in the house already joining us. Anyway, it's 12:42 in the afternoon. We got a little late start here today. Didn't have my act together here today. We've been watching the Trump speeches at the World Economic Forum here today and so forth. Say what you want to say about the WEF. Last year, the president of Argentina gave them the business from the stage and told them their policies were wrong. And today, the president of the United States stood up there on the big screen and said, all you guys are going the wrong direction. Europe is a sinkhole of regulation and you need to fix it or we are going to stomp you. And it was a great speech. It was good and it's so good. It doesn't matter who you voted for in the election. It's one of those times where you feel proud to be an American because someone is standing up there and at least speaking coherently. But regardless of that, we got a good show for you today. I picked up one of the topics from my old life in the security business and merged it with crypto, and that is crypto kidnappings are on the rise. Why is that? Because crime follows money. But that'll just be a short talk later in the show. And first, I'd like to welcome my co-host Pedro Garcia. Today, I got to turn and talk to you this way, Pedro. What's happening, Pedro?
Hey, Pedro? Brother, how you doing, man? It is a beautiful day, dude. I can't complain. Yep, can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
I can hear myself.
You can hear yourself.
Can you hear me? Hello?
I can hear you, Pedro.
Okay, perfect. All right, so be short.
Oh, you just put yourself on mute.
Dude, no, I don't mean it like that. No, I meant, because you're like, Pedro?
I think all of a sudden Pedro got a couple of seconds behind me.
I did not put myself.
Pedro, Earth to Pedro.
No,
what is going on here?
Good. I can hear you.
Pedro, I'm going to count to 5. Tell me when you hear me say 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I can hear you. I can hear you.
All right, go ahead, Pedro. Sorry, we can hear you, Pedro.
All right, perfect. Okay. So I think now it is good because I actually just turned on my speaker on the camera here, so I can actually hear you better. Let me know when you have double Pedro.
Only got single Pedro.
Okay, cool. All right. At Devos, he made up few things that I thought were really interesting. He acted very much as a boss one, being interest rates. Interest rates were just like, look, you need to lower interest rates, which I thought was really interesting that he spoke to the rest of the world's, Federal Reserves, because they're the ones who control that. So he simply made it very clear. And the people who control the Federal Reserves or run it are really large banking institutions. A lot of times these are called what we call shadow banking, people who literally basically run money market accounts that hold a lot of what we consider the fractional reserve side of things, saying, okay, we have X amount of money coming in, we can fractionalize this and put this out. So he was really telling those guys, hey, loosen up and let's get this thing up and running. Let's stop slowing down the economy. And I think I don't know if this is bad on my part because I don't know what he knows, but does he really know? My computer, dude, is just deciding. I don't know why.
Yeah, something's up with your computer there, Pedro.
Yeah, that's an understatement. Let me try this here real quick.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, anyway, it's what we were talking about. President Trump just beat up those poor people over at the EU. I'm going to put you on mute, Pedro, because your speakers are feeding back through the system.
Needed to know.
Oh, all right. Yeah.
Okay, now there you go.
Anyway, and so Mr. Trump stood there on stage.
Can you turn?
There must be a delay. Delay. What would you like me to do, Pedro? Anyway, while Pedro's figuring out his sound, I'm going to. There's some weird stuff going on in the great interwebs today. But anyway, who's here with us today in the community? Let's see, make sure I got the graphics up right. We've got Crypto Mike in the house. Thanks for joining us, Crypto Mike. What's up, Tom? What's up, Tom? And what's up, Pedro? Going on. Fire Chicken in the house, joining us from Rumble. Thank you for the Rumble crowd. Enjoy our new studio here. It's just a temporary studio. I was using it earlier today for an audit chain meeting, and thought that I would put Pedro in it and go with it today. I moved over to the other side of the screen here. It's kind of interesting. Dar Baby says howdy. Dar Baby, we finally hit your algo rand yesterday, but I think you are off. Pedro, you want to reboot or something, or jump out and then jump back in? Seems to be a long delay between when I speak and when Pedro hears us. Anyway, Pedro, I've taken you off of the you can still hear me, but I can still hear you, but the audience cannot. I just took you off to ensure that there was no feedback. I can hear you, Pedro, but you're not being sent to the feed right now, just to ensure that there's no feedback. It seems we have a delay, and I'm going to clap, and you tell me when you hear me clap. Here's why Chuck is go. Crypto Mike, I forgot to read your Chuck thing yesterday. It was really good, and I forgot to read it. But Crypto Mike says, Chuck once shattered the space-time continuum. He felt so bad, he put it back together. I can hear you, Pedro. Pedro. All right, Pedro, you can't hear me anyway. I'm going to reset my studio software for Pedro. Pedro, if you're listening on the YouTube feed, I reset the studio software just to make sure there was no issues with that. Check 1 2 1 2. Check Pedro. Anyway. We'll wait for Pedro to come on, but we were talking about the community here. Dar Baby says 2 seconds. There's some kind of delay. Yes. By the way, thanks for the 2-second algo chart covered by your loud SF exit music. You know what? It's much louder on the stream than it is in my ear for some reason. I can't figure out why. Matt Rhodes in the house. Matt Rhodes from the VETT, VET token. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate you allowing me to post the show schedule. But anyway, we're talking about Trump's address to the World Economic Forum, and it was simply epic. It was just epic. He told the Europeans all the business they needed to know. They already know, but will do nothing about, and that is the overregulation. And he mentioned that in the U.S., he put a regulation freeze on. He said no agency may issue any more regulations until they get this mess from the Biden administration under control. And he said for every one that you issue, you have to remove 10, and or consolidate them, make them more simple to follow, and so we need to do that. Pedro, I can hear you in my ear again, just so you know that. There's no delay, Pedro, and all seems to be good.
Regarding the basically, like, you can't, I mean, unless we what the fuck.
All right, that was out on the air. Wait, Joe, what is happening?
Oh, sorry, I didn't know. Just the idea that he basically just said to the world, or excuse me, to America and the world, unless America is taken care of, We're not giving money to Ukraine or any other war. Like, we're going to take care of our people. And I literally thought to myself, like, dude, yeah, like, are we really
Yeah,
going?
but that's bullshit, though. That's what you call the news people called it correctly, and I do see it. That's a promise and deliver thing that actually nothing has to be done. The money has been appropriated for the taking care of us already, and to be frank, it was appropriated under the previous administration. Okay. FEMA was fully funded, and all this BS that you hear about goes around the internet saying, oh, people are only getting checks for $700, their house burned down to the ground, all this kind of stuff. That's just the Russian troll machine going. What FEMA does is they give people $700+ a day instantly with no checks and balances. They're just like, you need clothes and food, here. Do this, and it's going to take a couple of days to process your larger application loan or assistance or whatever it is. And this is just to tide you over. And then the whole troll networks go is saying that FEMA only gives people $700 and stuff like that. That's ridiculous. It's not true at all. But anyway, and the money to rebuild a lot of the infrastructure in the Carolinas and stuff like that is also already in process too. So Trump can take an easy win on that one. He can say, look, see, everything's all good now. Money's flowing. Now we can get back to helping people in the rest of the world since we took care of our own people. It's an easy win for him. But that's part of being the president. Makes everyone feel good, boosts optimism, all that type of stuff, and all that. Darbaby says, many people lost it all in my town, and FEMA denied everyone due to no funds. Yeah, but that's being fixed. They had no funds. They got more money appropriated to them, billions more.
But why? I think one of the biggest issues that he's bringing up is the fact that why weren't there funds there, right? And this is where...
Well, there's all kinds of reasons for that. None of them are good.
Right. This is what I'm trying to say, is that the misappropriation of funds where it should have been placed, hence, i.e., whether it was to the immigrants, whether it was literally to other situations that we really know nothing about. By the way, it's really interesting to see that there is a Doge counter on the U.S. debt clock now.
Yeah, I noticed that. I noticed that, and it's already running.
Bro, I mean, $8 billion, and it's been a day. I'm like, what the?
Like, yeah, I don't know how they would be counting that.
Yeah, that's immediately what I was like, how? But it's going to be interesting because, I mean, and many other people are going to say, we want to see a list, say what you canceled out. I think that's a fair ask, right? Like, okay, this is what you're doing. This is cool. We don't mind. Just let us know what you're saving, right? And I think, what do they call that in finance? A list of deductions? No, not deductions.
Exemptions?
Exemptions and expenditures, and why XYZ has been, i.e., turned down or no longer, why we're saving money on, right? Like, we were putting money in here and this stopped. And it could be simply just the programs for the DAI or DI.
Yeah, it's probably just closing that. And they probably racked that up to the government number of $8 billion they were spending on it. But he just told the Europeans, look, ESG is done.
We're done. At least here in America. We're not going to play with that.
Yeah, it's done. DEI is done. And I got to tell you, a big compliance thing for companies is ESG reporting. They got to report to the government in machine-readable formats how they are complying with ESG regulations. And the Europeans have actually started, not a law enforcement, an enforcement body. So if you get those reports wrong, they have enforcement actions against you. Fines, all kinds of stuff like that. And Trump's like that. He's like, no, that's bullshit. That's bullshit. Which, of course, as you might suspect, I agree with.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting to see how money is freed up. And then as that money is freed up, where it's going to be. And so let's jump into Bitcoin here real quick and see its effects, some of its communication. The sad thing behind it, though, is I'm afraid that he didn't mention crypto again.
He did mention it.
Oh, did he?
He did, man. Didn't you see Bitcoin absolutely just pumped right as soon as he said it?
No, I don't. I didn't catch. Was that in the beginning?
Yeah, it was in like the first third of it or something. He mentioned the word crypto. I was on the call with Audit Chain, and we're all listening to it. Everyone jumped out of their seat.
Oh wow, I got to catch that because
immediately, that's why Bitcoin spiked when it did.
Got it. Okay, boom. So you can see right here then, the fact is so I need to go back and watch the whole entire thing then, because I missed like the first 3 minutes, 3 or 4 minutes. So, because I was trading based off of just some of the stuff that was going on. I didn't want to be biased on some of the movement, especially when the market is moving. I was in the ES trade. So you can see here that we did see the market pump a little bit last night into today. As always, we kind of started putting in a high here where there's liquidities at, and so we saw the sell-off. But with Trump's statement, looks very much like it has. I mean, just you can see it pushed up, came down to an area here, which was the 8-period moving average on the daily. Excuse me. On the hourly, and then now we're watching kind of push back up. I'd expect it, if this thing still continues, really reach that 110 area here by the end of the week. I would be shocked if we actually pulled back at this level. The reason why it's hit this level now a couple times, where we hit here, so there shouldn't be much sellers right here. We should see a new push up, potentially the 115 area for BTC, meaning the 150 or the 115K, where we could see it push and basically see, what would that be, like almost a 10% push potentially. So this is what I'm looking at here. It's just got to make sure with all this, my biggest thing I always talk about is, but we've got to see volume step in. Right now, it's still the first period of this hour, or we're closing for the first period of the first hour of the second part of the day. So it's gonna be really interesting to see if this continues up with volume. So long story short, you're like, Pedro, what is it gonna do? I expect it to go up until we hit about the high here, come down a little, find support on the 8-period moving average, either on the 30 or hour chart. Okay, and we want to stay above it. And this is kind of the same situation that happened with XRP, right? I was talking about XRP as it was making new highs. We wanted to stay at above the 4-hour 8, because that was our trending 8 period that we wanted to use as our gauge to keep buying in or taking profit. So one of those aspects of seeing this same situation, staying above that 8-period moving average and correlating that with the hour chart here, which is basically, as you can see, that 8 is starting to came down here, found buyers and push back up. Same situation. You can see if we finish up here, the next right there you go. You can see right here that the 8 just jumped up at our level. And so I would expect to see it potentially, if it's going to move up, we want to see it come down first with small amounts of supply wicks as we're coming down, so it can quickly push back up. So you can see here there is there's not a lot of demand wicks. I'd expect it to come back down first onto that hour 8, potentially 2-hour here, and then find supporting to push back up.
Pedro, what is this line? What pricing level is this line that you have right here? God, I have myself too big here. Jesus.
I'm going to move it back. Actually, that really doesn't matter. To tell you the truth, that was previous supply back here that we were playing off of. I just forgot to erase it. So let's go ahead and and this is here, previous highs and lows that we've been playing off of. You can see here we haven't closed above this area right here, and so to me it's acting as resistance and messing with the swing highs, right? So this aspect, we got a high, right, another high right here, right, and then the same situation, right, high. Come on, computer, you can do it. High, why aren't you moving? So high, another high. But you can see throughout all this times, we've kept that 106 to that 105 area as resistance because we keep closing below it. So if we can close above that 106, 110 with good volume sitting here for today, then I expect us to continue high to that 115 area, potentially 120 if it really starts to catch wings. So let's pull that up here real quick. So I'm looking at here, and these are again just whole numbers that I'm using that would act as some type of resistance. And then we're going to go right here. We're going to create the 120-ish area and see what happens here. So oh man, where's my, I got some on my, excuse me, sorry. Okay, so this is where I'm looking. So if we can close above this area today and hold, then with good volume, I'd expect us to continue up and blow through our resistance here at that 110 area. Because you can see it's already tried to trade it, acted as resistance. And a lot of those sellers that are sitting there would then been already absorbed to the next period where it then continues up. So I think this is where we're sitting right now.
Alrighty.
Yes, yes. So again, I'm bullish. What
was the? When you erased that supply line earlier, I was trying to get at where do you think the? And you said it's got to come down before they start pushing it back up. Where is your zone for the to come back down to?
So
or was it?
I don't know. I would say it's about right here. So this is the zone that I'd be looking at. To about right here. We have this because your 1 hour, we've been trending off of it. You can see we came down right here from the previous hour, then we had the sell-off, but then you can see how that sell-off was rejected and then the buyers stepped in about right here. So this is where I'd expect if we are going to come down in the next hour, then expect it to come down into these levels here. Again, small amount because this is a 104 and we could potentially see it get to the 120, 115 area. So make sure this would be more of a, it's kind of a higher time play here. So I don't want you guys to risk too much. So this is what we're looking to play off of. Again, remember that there are stops right below here. Right, so they could come down to pick up those stops and then to push it back up. So this is a general area that I would wait and see when I see buyers step in and then the smaller time SMA start to trend up. As it starts to trend up, that's when we get involved. But we want to see what happens with the buyers on the daily, hour, 2 hour, and also our daily candle here. So that's a huge situation that we want to see here. Again, this needs to happen. If it is going to come back down and continue up, we want to see this in the next hour or two as it comes down. If it goes up, then, well, it's a bullish market and we know how crypto goes. But again, I wait and kind of see. Because I like getting in on the pullbacks because it's just when it comes back and it goes up, you're instead of having to wait 2 hours to get profitable, and you're sweating and you're hurting, right? Because the pain's there. I like waiting for it to go down. But if you want to capture the push up here, just make sure that you want to get in at an area where it pulls back down. So if you see it go red and you see how you have wicks down in these levels with an SMA, that's where you want to get in. But just remind you, if it starts to pull back below this 8 on the 5 and 15, then we'll most likely continue down. So if you're going to get in right now, just understand you can have some space between where you really get into buyers and sellers stepping in. So it's the first 5 minutes here of this.
All right. Well, that's a good outlook for Bitcoin. I'm going to try and take advantage of that and ride the wave up to 115 or so. using our sponsor below me, BitFi. If you need to trade on a central exchange, guys, you got to deposit some money into BitFi and then come ask Pedro and I how to go long and how to go short in the futures markets. Anyway, DYOR Baby came in yesterday when we hit algo at the end of the show, and apparently I had started blasting the outro music.
Yep.
So he didn't get a lot of good information from it since I flummoxed it. How about hitting algo for him?
Absolutely. I'll go rand. So basically what we talked about yesterday is two things. One, it could go up, but we're stuck in between this period of 8 and 20. So you're going to be playing with this. We want to see volume step in on green days is really what we want to see. And in particular, buyer volume as it steps in. So as we come down, I would expect it to potentially come down to this 30 area, potential 30 area, but also kind of this 32 area right here, 38, 32, simply because you have stops at those levels. And so you can see as volume is starting to die out a little here as we're going down, potentially they're looking for more volume, more stops that will then they can push it back up. And so remember, as I always say, I want to make sure I bring this up. So you have buy side liquidity, sell side liquidity, which is an ICT trading law he talks about. And what it means is when you have lower highs or lower lows, below the lower low, you typically will have stops there. And on higher highs and higher highs and higher lows, you will typically have sells also, or stops also sitting in those up as sellers or as buyers. And so you see the sell side come in on that level. And so I bring that up because it's kind of something similar we're playing with right now. You've got this area right here where you potentially could have a lot of stops right here sitting, which are shorts, which then you would see a buy to step in because people are long from here up, right? And so you would have people who are getting stopped out. So those would be sellers, which then would trigger buyers to push it up. So that's why I'm saying around that 38 area. But then that next level after that is really down here at that 32, 33 area and down at these other levels. So just looking at that, I would be more. And if we do see it get down to here, we got down here one time went back in December on the 20th, but now you can see how it's starting to put higher highs and higher lows. So I'm more adamant to say that it's not going to get below the low here to that 30. It may. I'm not saying it definitely will or will not, but it's just I'm more adamant to sit there and say that we have some distance that it's always a little curious to see if it's really going to start pushing down, but we were stuck. But I would say if Bitcoin starts to rally, this thing's gonna rally. That's just it. But
DYOR Baby, I'd like to know what your interest in Algorand is. You bring that up frequently. Is it something that in the past you've made money on, so now you have an emotional attachment to it? Do you follow projects that develop on Algorand? We'd love to know that. But Pedro, DYOR Baby piped up while you were talking and said that his buy order is at your $33 line there, or 33-cent line, or whatever.
Okay, I like that. Yeah, I like that. That's an area that I think we very much could touch to find more liquidity so that we can push back up. So
Troll King is in the house, ladies and gentlemen.
What's up,
Troll King XPX, another epic name. Troll King.
For real.
Love to follow your Twitter account. Nothing but trolling.
What's up, trolls? What's up? He's funny. What was I gonna say? Oh, also, but that 38 area here again could act as support here, and push it back up. So just kind of be paying attention to that. If we just blow through this area right here as support, then we, then that it's coming down to this level here. If not, and we start to see big volume right around that 38 area. then you know. And I mean big volume as in like you'll definitely notice like, holy shit, that's a lot of volume. If you look at comparative days, and you're like, oh, that's twice, if not 3 times the amount of volume, then you know that's when, all right, this is where they're going to put that swing low to push it higher. So yeah, so just to give you a heads up so you know. And then after that, we have this area here. We should, if once I find support here, I can't see it not going higher here. If we don't create a lower low, then we're going higher, which is gonna, then the next place is honestly that 66 to 78,000 area, which is gonna be the next line. So let me make sure. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah, so let me go ahead and move that to there. Dude, I'm actually shocked to see Bloomberg playing a balanced. Typically, there was a minute where they were just very left, but now it's again going back to kind of just that moderate.
Well, Michael Bloomberg is the king of liberals, and even if he doesn't have editorial control of Bloomberg TV or Bloomberg Financial News anymore. He likely still is a large shareholder and has influence and has hired people over the years that have leaned that way. And they're probably just weaning through those. And like, I got to tell you, Pedro, many news organizations will just use the very, very broad term, shit the bed, with their hiring and their editorial control, letting it get out of control and being one-sided.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. I mean, Fox News is very, very Republican and very pro-Trump because most of the people that work there are actually good friends with Trump because they've covered, like Sean Hannity's known him for 30 years and uses that influence. So they're very one-sided. But it's not like they're hiding it. They don't say, oh, we're the most neutral group on the planet. They're like, we're supporting these guys. But these other groups like Bloomberg and even some of the other news channels, they were like, well, we're journalists, but then they hired only people with the same views, and then so their organization went that direction. And that's what happens in any organization, and that's a hiring problem in corporate America. When they hire everyone with the same view, all of a sudden the company's going that way, and it might not be the right way. I pointed this way because it goes off the screen, off the cliff. It's an organizational behavior thing. I took organizational behavior classes at university, and that was one of the things they talked about. They said this was back in the 80s, and they said we're talking about diversity, and it wasn't diversity in the sense they use it now. They're talking diversity in giving CEOs advice from the executives. They said. In fact, I've brought this up when I used to talk about working with the Germans. The Germans, nobody challenges the boss. The boss says, we're all the sky is red. Everyone goes, oh, such a nice red sky. And in the U.S., they'd be like, boss, man, you need new glasses or something. The sky's blue today. And it's an organizational behavior thing. And it's like that in politics, and it's like that in the news, too. But you're right, Pedro. I watched Bloomberg for a while ago because I had a free year-long subscription. And it was great. That was about 3 years ago. And then it went out, and I was like, oh, I have to pay for it now. And I'm like, whoa, look at the cost of that shit.
Yeah, it's very expensive. But I like it, and I watch it, and I think it's really important. And it's been nice to finally see just, okay, like you're seeing it come back, like back to like that central, like common sense area, like, and like the ESG movement, they don't talk about it favorably as much, and they definitely do have people who are opposed to it that are now starting to come on and talk about it. So again, it's another situation that is fine, like whether you're pro or against it, I'm not here. I want both views. That's it. Give me both views or multiple views so that I personally can go through and I don't gotta weft. They call that weft, right? When you sift through something, when you weft through.
Sift,
whiffed, weft. I'm messing it up. The reason why I say it is just because you've seen, I have like 15 different news feeds, ranging each one from different views, different thought process, whether you're liberal, whether you're more, because you can be green and still conservative. I mean, if you look at Ross Perot is extremely green, but he's extremely conservative, so there's still decent balances of that movement there. And then you can have a left-leaning green movement, but which is more diverse. And I hate to use the word diverse, progressive in their stance on, let's say, transgenderism, whereas the conservative green movement is more like, no, bro, like that's crazy talk, right? So you've gotta go through and sift through it all. But if I can get those views on one channel, then awesome, right? Like, great. And I think that's where me and you talk. We'll talk about different views, things we won't even necessarily agree with. But it's like back in the day when I was talking about, whether you wanted to be a boy, a girl, non-binary, whatever. Cool. My biggest issue was when you start to force me to have to believe what you believe, and I'm a devil for not believing.
I know. It's
what
just all
you wanted to
those
believe.
People.
And this is where the issue was at. And so this is where to see both.
Roland Rod, welcome to the house.
It's like, can my heart have a real way to be able to speak versus have to worry, right, that I'm gonna hurt you because words fly differently than your worldview?
As I say, your problems are not my problems, and other people want to believe that their problems are your problems. And no, so like I tell people, I say it's not even my job to remember your name.
Yeah.
You know what? If your name's Barb and I call you Ethel, well, that just shows that I'm either not smart enough or I don't care. So take our relationship accordingly. And it's also not my job to know what you call yourself. But I did see something really funny yesterday. Someone posted my pronouns are was and were. That shit over. But it's not over here in Canada. They're like, there's people up here having like marketing crisis responses to these things, so their people don't get triggered and stuff like that. But anyway, Troll King. I think Troll King. When you hear this, catch up, hit the live button. You're behind a little bit. I know my name comes from the mythical theory. I really find it interesting. It does have another meaning as well, like most knows, troll, but really a serious person considered trustworthy. Well, we will agree with that if you show up here every day and watch our show.
I'm sure, brother.
And Dar Baby says, just follows it up with the usual troll. Good, but thanks for being a new and loyal viewer there, troll. We're going to take a quick minute to talk about, before we get into talking about all sorts of other things crypto. Pedro, just so you know, I once again have a hard 2 o'clock stop today. Got another meeting. Mrs. Striking has a big event coming up the beginning of next month, and so that preparation is underway. And so I'm, as I said, I'm being scheduled more properly. I didn't say I was scheduling things more properly. I would say I am being scheduled more properly.
Your boss is handling you well.
The boss is handling me well. Exactly. Anyway, one of the things that I have a long experience with, decades worth, is being in the security industry and what we call the executive protection market, from government people to private individuals. And so Pedro and I were up in Toronto recently, and hold on, let me change the view here. We're up in Toronto, and the sponsor of the event was this group called WonderFi. WonderFi is a big Canadian company that has not only does well, they under their brand they have an exchange, they have a custodian group, they have all sorts of things, and they keep buying other companies and turning into like a crypto conglomerate. And their CEO got kidnapped.
Holy shit! Yeah.
Driven out in the middle of nowhere, and made to give over the seed phrases and pay a bunch of money, and he couldn't do it, so they had to call a family member. just like the game show. Can I call a family member? Call a friend? And they ended up transferring $750,000 in crypto over to the bad guys, who then let him go just fine, standing out in the middle of a park somewhere, about 40 miles from where he got picked up from. And so the executive protection market is really interesting for our industry here in crypto. And one of the reasons why it is because new money, what happens with money? Crime follows money. And kind of a background, people that grow up wealthy, in wealthy families, many people call them highfalutin, they call them offish, they call them in their own little world. Well, it's actually intentional, and it's not because for some people it's ego and stuff like that. But for most of them, they've developed personal and family methods for being safe, and for being not getting scammed, not getting kidnapped, making sure the kids are safe, all that type of stuff, especially in countries other than the United States. South America, it's a big problem. People with a lot of money pay a lot of money to remain safe. Armored vehicles, bodyguards, all that type of stuff. In Western Europe and the United States, it's not as big deal, but it does happen a lot. Like I said, it just happened in Toronto. And it just happened in France the other day, in which the co-founder of Ledger was kidnapped.
Yep.
And let me bring that one up here. The Ledger of co-founder, I don't think he's still involved with the day-to-day operations of the company, but he was kidnapped from his home. He's kidnapped in France, he's French, and safely released after the police stormed the thing and got him back. David Balland, co-founder of the French cryptocurrency hardware wallet manufacturer Ledger, was released following a kidnapping incident, according to the Paris prosecutor's office. Balland was abducted from his home in central France during the early hours of January 21st, and he's held captive until a police operation grabbed him. I can't wait to hear how that police operation worked out.
Yeah.
But anyway, he is the founder of Ledger. And so the question remains, did he still, because the story is still developing, did he ultimately pay at least some, and that the police were able to triangulate everything based on that and get him? Or did they get him before that? Was he forced? Is this a Russian organized crime rig? Did they force him to reveal any kind of proprietary information about Ledger, so potentially ledgers aren't safe? And I'm not speculating to make clickbait here, but one of the things that wealthy families do, and people that grow up with tons of money and are at risk, is that they de-risk themselves. And I've covered this on Rugged, Ruined, and Wrecked, in which founders of groups. Yeah, you don't walk around. You don't have the administrator keys on you to your whole project. In the wealth, like Davos is going on right now in Switzerland. There's all kinds of policy stuff going on that people don't agree with. But one of the things, there's a big side group for it, is all the family offices that gather there and meet and talk about investing and all that. And wealthy people use these family offices because it keeps their finances once removed from them. So they're not at risk for having $1 trillion on them. Or like, imagine if Elon Musk had access to $200 billion on him at all times. He would be an extreme kidnap risk. Instead, he has offices that take care of it, of professionals that are also insured by big companies. So if something happens, the money doesn't disappear, blah, blah, blah. This is not the case in crypto. Crypto, there's a lot of new money. And when we have new money in things, you end up with people that don't understand the risks of being wealthy. And this is also in the news recently, Pedro, if you've heard a lot about a bunch of sports stars of having their houses broken in when they're on the road. And the guy from Cincinnati got his house broken into, and all his watches ended up in Chile. The crime gang, they literally watched the football schedule and then flew to Cincinnati from Chile, robbed the guy's house, and flew back to Chile. They call it burglary tourism. And then they brought up another bunch of cases. And in crypto, there's been like 171 cases. I'm trying to get I tagged him on this the post for today's thing. Guy that actually tracks all these things. 171 crypto physical thefts from people of Bitcoin, in which they come in with a gun or a bat or something, say, give me your, they track you down. It's not like in the street corner. They track you down. They say, we know you have millions of dollars in Bitcoin, and they steal it from you under risk of death. Like there's that stick figure meme that says, my passphrase is, I'll never give it to you. It's 24 things, blah, 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 256 AES encryption, yada, blah, blah, blah. And the guy points a gun at the guy's knee, and the guy goes, here's my passphrase. It's pretty simple to turn over. But in crypto with new money, just like in sports stars with new money, they don't have those family protections. They don't have it built into their way of thinking. My parents used to live next to a football star, and when they were out of town, there was a guy came and watched the house. If you make millions of dollars, you can afford to have someone come house sit your joint. So people didn't do that. And a lot of wealthy people do that. But it's becoming a problem in our industry. The new money aspect of it brings in the organized crime part of it. And sure enough, Pedro, and one of the reasons why I talk about this is that I bring it up because all the anti-crypto people show how it's just more of a problem. And of course, Elizabeth Warren's crew piped up once again saying, see, we told you crypto was all scams and people and crime and all that type of stuff, because here is another example of it. Meanwhile, regular dudes are getting ripped off all the time, including my example of sports stars. So they can ban sports now? Like, we can't have sports because the people get robbed. Anyway, long story short, people in crypto, especially, we'll just call him Chuck Jansen out there, because he's now, after running Fire Chicken, I am sure he's worth billions and millions and billions of dollars. You need to take proper precautions with your money and your profile. I mean, Pedro, once our show becomes big and huge and we have a massive trading firm here going, we're going to have fleets of bodyguards and all this stuff, and I'll call my friends in the armored vehicle industry and have chauffeurs and all that. That'll be a good problem.
That will never happen. You know why? Because we're going to give the majority of that money away to orphans and widows and people who are struggling.
You can give your share away. I'll give plenty of it away, but
I will give 90% of my stuff away so that little babies don't have to cry at night.
And you can't guilt trip me into my time of materialistic needs, Pedro.
I will.
But damn it, it does work.
I will. Listen, man. Listen, I'll tell that guy who wants to kidnap me, be like, hey, man, I'm trying to give. Like, I want to make sure that, all right, show me what's happening in your neck of the world. How do we help many of those people there that are hurting? How? That's the keys. How do we help the hurting and those who are stuck in a position that they can't climb out?
Well, we send about $200 billion a year in foreign aid, but that just got put on hold. So Africa's going to be hurting more. So if you can raise $200 billion, some people would appreciate it. But on the crime note here, it's not just bad things happening to CEOs. It's CEOs doing bad things too. I brought this article up. If you remember last week or 2 weeks ago, no, it's 2 months now. Time flies. I talked about how the FBI ran its own tokens and then hired market makers to come in. And some market makers were legitimate. They're like, this is what we do. And they tell people, we are the market makers for this. And we will be buying and selling and taking the other sides of it, which is perfectly legal. But the other ones are just engaging in pure wash trading. And now they're starting to plead guilty, because once the FBI arrests you, they don't arrest you until they got you nailed to the cross. And so this crypto firm pleads guilty to wash trading here. FBI made token. I mean, how about sitting there thinking you're the sales guy for the group, you landed a new client. You're like, man, this one's going to be big. They got all kinds of money. They want to do this. They're moving so fast. Everything's great and legit. And it's the FBI.
Talking about, dang it, we were just getting ahead.
I know. It's like being one of those. What was the dude's name for NBC Dateline that used to catch the predators? Chris something.
I don't know.
It's like when you walk into a room and there's a bunch of cameras and Chris, whatever his name is there, one of two things. Either you walked into the wrong hotel room, or things are about to get really bad for you. Because either one thing, you're like, oh, it's the wrong hotel room. Or B, you are a sexual predator who just got busted. Same with these guys. They picked the wrong hotel room and they walked into the FBI trap. And it's great. It's good. It helps clean up our industry and all that. So if we can get the CEOs of our industry groups to do two things, not carry around administrator keys and come up with what amazingly, Pedro, regular corporations that have, like Apple has $200 billion cash or something like that. So does Warren Buffett. Do you think only Warren Buffett can access that cash and they can't move any of it without Warren Buffett?
Absolutely not.
Right. They have
Absolutely not.
all sorts of processes to manage that money so people don't spirit it off. And people still do. Happened in I can't remember what was the company.
Check. It's quadruple check. It is not. It's not like one or two layers. We're talking. It's like layer after layer after layer, and then so and so, and then on top of that, you can't just move stuff unless like the CEO has purposely set it up that way. But even then, if it's a publicly traded company, bro, it's just no way that that's happening.
And even at the banks and custody places, if something goes wrong, they still have insurance. It's not like with crypto, all of our crypto projects, it was a big thing a while ago, started asking about insurance. So like, why don't you have insurance like a regular company if you're claiming to be a regular company? And then they would go to get insurance and the insurance companies were like, nope. And it wasn't because it was crypto. It was because they had no internal controls. That's why. But anyway, our business is getting shaped up. It's getting, it's growing, it's getting legitimacy. Mr. Trump's basically forcing Operation Choke Point to end. All will be good if we just grow up a little bit more and follow some good procedures. So if any of you crypto execs need some consulting advice on how to stay safe, feel free to give me a call.
We'll help you. We will help you.
Tom
will help you. I'll just have fun, just like making fun of you. I'll be like,
always the
you're dumb. Anyways, after that, it was really interesting. The other question I thought was really interesting is, so watching Trump talk to the rest of the world, like, okay, if this is where I find really interesting.
Hold on a sec. Anime Movies, thanks for joining us on Kick. I really appreciate it. Thanks for the follow. Well, I'll follow you back too. So sorry about that, Pedro.
No, it's all good. No, I was just saying that I think what's really interesting is that watching Trump please don't. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, good. My computer was just starting to be like, blah. I have to buy a new CPU. I'm gonna have to just overhaul, spend like $2,000 on this thing.
Me too. I'm finally at that point. In fact, I had this up when I don't have the green screen up here, my screens face the apartment. So anything's on my computer, Mrs. Striking comes up to give me a nice lovey kiss. And I had a $3,000 computer on the screen. And she's like this. I was like, click, 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 click.
It just got to. You got to, dude. Like we have some money in the system, and why not use it, man? Because when you start to have issues like this, then it just becomes a pain in the butt. I'll let you buy some of my CPU stuff with the money we have.
I'm trying to get CDW as a sponsor here of the show, so I'm working on that.
Awesome. That would be.
I know it would be awesome. But we need more viewers. So all of you 7 viewers on YouTube and you 492 viewers on Rumble. Okay, that was a lie. But share it. Please share this. Please share it with the Telegram room that you may belong in. That you might think people would enjoy our show.
By the way, shout out to our guys over at Rumble. You guys, I mean, consistently we keep having 10 to 20 people every day there, which is really cool. So we really appreciate you guys coming in and just. And
there's a $10 rant. Do the applause. I'll just have to do it myself. I'll even do the. Hold on, I'm gonna do the. Wait, I gotta do this right. For Chuck, the fire chicken. Oh yeah. the Fire Chicken $10 dance helping us get closer to buying Tom and Pedro new computers. Thank you very much, Chuck. Really appreciate it.
Let's go. Appreciate you. That was dope. And plus that, the rants do help us out at
Forbidden Chicken dance. That was Chicken's gonna moon now, Chuck.
Forbidden Chicken.
Gonna moon.
All right. So, but I thought it was just really interesting to actually see what was actually happening with Davos, and that idea that when Trump said, all right, look, we need to see dropping of interest rates around the world. And then all of a sudden, dude, like, I thought to myself, dude, that might not be good. You don't necessarily want that, because if you have a drop of interest rates, you potentially could see inflation go up if you don't have real production, where you actually have real innovation that creates jobs to meet where the money is coming in at, right? And then instead of people going through and buying stuff, they actually make a fair balance and put some savings away and then buy some things that they need to do, but just keep that. You actually may not have huge inflation, and then all of a sudden you start to see real wage pick up, hence then suppressing, and when I say suppressing, keeping inflation at what it's at, but you see money catching up with inflation. So your goods and services, right, are the same, versus right now they're kind of out of whack because of what happened with this evasive sickness, right? And so right now it's still way out of whack, because we literally had almost like 150, 200%. Some things were 400, 500% jumped up in price. Like you made the comment about your chicken, 30%, 40%. You used to get 4, now you only get, what was it? No, you used to get 3.
You used to get 3 chickens for $9.99 chicken breast. Now I get 2.
Exactly. So what we want to see is this balance of savings, right? And then real production behind that, where people are buying stuff, but it's not overwhelming the system. That's what we really need. Hence, you get the production of businesses, getting them up and running again, real wages being able to come back in. You have people will be able to start buying houses because they've increased the supply now within housing in many places around the country, because of some of the stuff that Trump automatically did with his executive orders, which was, I didn't even know that was being suppressed by the U.S. government. I was like, wait, what? Really? I think you even talked about it, but I was like, nah, they can't be. Nah, that's exactly what happened. But so real interesting. So it was really interesting to sit there then to see the 10-year yield, which I thought was really interesting, start to push up. I thought it was really interesting. Like it literally was like, I was like, what? You should be going down. So it was really interesting to see it really kind of push up here around 11. It was selling off. You can see right here. It was right here around 11 o'clock when he spoke. And then you just saw it go up. But I was like, oh, it's starting to put some higher highs and higher lows. So it's going to be really interesting to see what actually happens with this movement. And that will actually be the test to see, does Trump really have the power to kind of push other governments and their Federal Reserve around, in a sense. So it's gonna be really interesting to see.
Yeah, a lot of people. The answer technically, is no.
Yep.
He doesn't have the power, but does he have the oomph? Does he have that momentum that people just want to curry favor with him, or do that type of stuff? And that is a powerful thing. I mean, people will do anything to get invited to Mar-a-Lago and get that picture there. I mean, that's even more desirable than White House pictures. It's like I went to his home.
Mm-hmm. I think he went to
the place that was valued at $21 million. It was really $1 billion piece of property.
The fact that he just resides there, I mean, just the favor of being in that place and around him is huge. I mean, that, just being able to sit there and say, oh, I went to go see Trump.
Anyway, Pedro, during this the speech today, it was very interesting how he essentially told everybody, said he wants to push the price of oil down very far, and that is to turn the money off for Russia. If they can't, he's going to put actually some serious sanctions on now on Russia. If he not immediately, but if they don't come to a deal with the Ukrainians, he's going to put some serious sanctions on them, which I believe will be essentially no economic contact at all, just like when we were at the Cold War with the Soviet Union, and that would stop the shipping, completely stop the shipping by use of a warship or two of the vast kind of off the books oil ships that they use. Same with Iran. They did that to Iran. They stopped all the ships that were kind of faking their cargo and all that. They basically put SEAL Team 6 on them to go follow them and find them. And then they said, he went to the ship's captains and said, bad plan. It's a bad plan. You're violating the sanctions. And Iran has suffered from money. And you heard it when the Hamas thing came out. They released both Hamas and Hezbollah were sending messages back to Iran saying, hey, we don't got any money. And Iran was like, sorry, they're having trouble.
We don't have any too.
But anyway, if Trump, he went to the Saudis, he's going to the Saudis and saying, look, we got to push the price of oil down. And the Saudis are going to say no, because that's their living. But they could also say, we'll do it, but you got to make it up to us somehow else. And we'll see what the deal is for that. Crypto, there's not enough money in crypto yet to deal with oil.
Well, imagine if all of a sudden, instead of having an intersection between the CME, you could actually broaden out and create your own type of crypto connected to the price of crude oil. And then you actually have a way where you could take your money, right? Like right now, it's only one way besides stocks and oil futures. But imagine being able to stake an oil future off a crypto project. Like I actually was thinking about this last night.
Doesn't that already happen in Singapore?
Kind of, yeah. It's something similar. Yes. But again, it's in Singapore. And in addition to it, it's not necessarily American per se, right? America. But if it was to be adopted by America, and then in addition to that, then brought in as a contributor, right, for the funding, which would be literally Saudi Arabia, it would be, just the exchange fees alone would be pretty big. So I just think it would be really interesting to see how that works. And again, I'm hypothesizing this is not what I'm saying is going to happen. I think it could, but like, why not? Why couldn't you make it sweet for them? Like, hey, look, we're actually going to switch things around a little, and you can take part in the CME futures as well as potentially this other system. I don't know. It sounds crazy.
Anyway, the good news, President Trump, he took aim at European regulators, oil producers, and big banks over the course of 45 minutes. He looked right at his friend.
Dude. Yeah.
What's his name? The chairman and CEO of Bank of America, and said, look, you got to stop this business of Operation Choke Point. He didn't use those words. He just said this conservatives are getting targeted. And of course, the wealthy people in banks are conservative. There might be a public-facing Democrat for certain things or something like that, but most wealthy people turn out to be conservative because of the tax situation. But anyway, and said stop doing that. You got to give everyone a fair chance of having an account. And he also promised to make the United States a manufacturing superpower and the world capital of artificial intelligence and crypto. That's when he was saying that, Pedro. He mentioned used the word crypto, and everyone's like, ah! So it was a good speech and all that. Pedro, I gotta check on the old dog right here for a minute.
Okay, let me pull up, because I want to pull up gold chart here real quick while you do that, and then come back on in a second. So we talked about not gold, crude oil here. on Technical Tuesday. So that was back here when we started seeing the sell off. And I was talking about how as we are moving into this period of basically Trump saying that he wants a weak crude oil, right? And we talked about this even where he would need it if Russia doesn't play along, he's got to figure out a way to capitalize them, to get them to get pulled out of the Ukraine, right? And he's like, look, I want to de-armor, I want to do all that like we were talking about. You've got to get out of Ukraine. And if he's able to basically siphon money from them and in a roundabout way, so you can stop the war itself, because you got to pay your soldiers. If you don't pay your soldiers, IOUs don't work really well before they start to, because they're giving up their life. This is real. So we were talking about that here as the market was coming into this. And this was Technical Tuesday. And I said, I expect us to go down here, right? And to see us continue down in these lower levels. And I talked about that 69, 66 area. And potentially, we talked about this, where we could see it come down. If we really want to put the hurt on Russia, that 58, 52 area is really that area where it's going to be tough for Americans. But because we have the demand by Europe and them wanting to say, why would they not want to buy from us? Even if we can squeak out, let's say, a 2%, 3% for now, and then Russia says, okay, uncle, we raise the price back up to, let's say, 60, or like that 72 area, 68 to 72 area, then that would be beneficial for everybody. But this is key. We've got to see Russia really chill out. So this is why, back here when we were talking, what I expected to see, right? We talked about that whole entire situation with Russia, with Ukraine, and really just the point of it. The other part I thought was really interesting as well, as him going through and really opening up this idea of natural gas, clean coal, nuclear development, of really developing just energy producing country versus buying it. We will become the producer of it, which again, I think is just dynamic change on the global market, simply because we can produce, we can push out. And so imagine the deficit now when it comes to generating income for America would change just the landscape of how we actually do business, right? And so all of a sudden now we have electricity that is a lot cheaper. We have electricity that can then be sold out to the rest of the world through natural gas, through clean coal, even dare I say nuclear, that we would even sell out if we had an excess, let's say to Canada, or let's say to Mexico. And if, one of the things I know that Canada is one of our biggest purchasers, trading partners that we use, and we actually buy a lot of crude oil. So this is one of those things that it's definitely going to get a little hairy between the two. But with Pierre and what he's trying to do, I think it's going to be able to be I think at first tense, but I think it would be smart is if Europe doesn't, what's the word I want to use, lessen up on the regulations. I think it'd be smart for us to sit there and say, you know what? Let's go ahead and just build a massive infrastructure of AI that basically just capitalize on everything that they do where they mess up. And I thought that was really interesting.
I know.
I'm going to finish up there because I was trying to get your...
Good.
No, that's it.
That's a great use of AI. Figure out have AI just go and sort out where people are just screwing things up and figure out how to take advantage of it.
It really
76 Norton, welcome to the house. Thanks for joining us. Really appreciate it. You're catching us at the end of the show. Ka-ching! Ka-ching, ka-ching. Welcome, Mr. Minnesota. How those Vikings doing?
Oh, that's funny.
Just like my Bears?
The Bears. The Bears.
Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we've been talking about lots of stuff today regarding the World Economic Forum. This is the first year in a while our show sponsor, Audit Chain, has not been there. Not at the World Economic Forum, but there's the World Economic Forum that goes on, and then there's like 76 other kind of industry-related networking events around it that have nothing to do with the World Economic Forum. It's just since all the rich people of the world are there, the VCs, presidents of this, presidents of that, it's just an awesome time. But
one day we'll go.
One day we'll go, but we've been covering what the good things Mr. Trump had to say. I should say President Trump now had to say there. And just coming out and telling, I love it. It's so good when a politician speaks bluntly. Just Europe, you guys suck. You're overregulated. And they are. They're just overregulated. I mean, people are like, oh, all the new Mercedes and European cars are all sleek now and have these short scrub noses and stuff. It's a design thing that is inspiring and all this kind of shit. No, the European Union has forced all cars to have a slope nose like that, so when cars hit people, it doesn't hurt as much. It's the dumbest thing, because Europe also, all their trucks, they mandate their trucks can only be so long, so all their trucks are cab over with those giant front ends on them, and so when trucks hit people, it just smokes them. It's just a land of contradiction there. But needless to say, it's a great place for tourism. Lots of good stuff going on there. I enjoy Europe's many cities in Europe, including their growing high-speed train network. I'm a train nerd. Love it.
You know what's interesting is to watch the dollar. So we talked about on Technical Tuesday that we need to see the dollar drop because of the initiatives that Trump is trying to do. And so now this was on Tuesday where we saw the market come up, and I said, guys, all right, guys, I could see us potentially getting above the 8. But the reality is because of the stuff that Trump is trying to do, I'd expect us to see the sell-off kind of come down to our lower levels here. And our first target, if you're going to be in on that trade, would be down at that 50 period moving average, which was sitting around that 107.55 area. And you can see that's actually where we're kind of headed now. So that should be the first real, like your first big take off about 70% of your trade there, and then see if it continues down, if not further, or if we just consolidate and then wait for the 8 period to come down to touch it. But that's really where I'd expect to see some kind of capitulation between things. So also the crude oil real quick, it's down at that 20 period moving average on the daily. We did find a little support on that 20 period moving average on Tuesday, but you can see we're starting to sell through it, and especially some of the verbiage that President Trump was saying definitely is holding true to what we talked about on Technical Tuesday, and I expect to see us again continue down to our lower levels of potentially $70 to 69 cent area here, potentially stopping at that $71 mark. So that's all right. I just wanted to clarify that so we could actually, because I kind of talked about it and then I went kind of left field there. So, dude, one of my questions I want to ask you, because I think this is really important for myself, is when I consider like all of Europe and what's actually happening there, what is the mindset of Europe really in relationship to Trump? Are they really for him? Because I've seen both sides of, oh no, it's like, you know, he's this evil anti freedom. What's the word I want to use? I hate to use the word HT or H. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, they just think.
Or it's
what's the best way to?
Because I see both things. I see on one thing, right, she's this horrid person in Europe. And then I also see in other places where they're having rallies and they're like, yeah, I mean, the UK is mixed with these things. So it's really interesting to sit there and see this. And I was just wondering, you have a lot of friends over there that I would love to know, like, how big is it?
I'll give you the basic idea. For the longest time in Europe, for the past, 20, 30 years, the liberal progressive voice has been the loud voice. Even the Germans, who are the social democrats for a long time, essentially were a very progressive government. They said, we'll bring in every immigrant. We'll do anything. We'll give benefits to everybody. Everyone should lead a great life. We'll have every 10,000 days off. Get to retire at age 59 with full pensions forever. And then after a while, as the debt started building up and the bullshit started building up, you saw the rise of the nationalistic right-wing movements. In Italy, the government changed to be a more nationalistic and right-leaning prime minister, and party took power. In Poland, it went that way for a while. A couple of the Eastern European Union countries are heavily influenced by Russia. Slovakia won, and Bulgaria, for sure, or Hungary. I might get one of those confused. And they're leaning towards Russia, thus very conservative and more authoritarian. But those voices are coming out now, and there's a lot of people over there that support Donald Trump, but A, are afraid to talk about it, and also, but B, like myself, have seen him go from a complete spaz his first term to a now more organized and professional politician, a calculated politician.
Yeah.
And so you'll see more leaders like him in the upcoming elections over there, and hopefully Europe can get their European Parliament to stop passing these over regulation. They have. You should see. Just go to the EU's website. There's topic after topic that they're going to be addressing, and these things get very little discussion at the top of the EU level.
So my question.
And now they pass the laws, and under treaty, the countries underneath it have to change their laws to adhere to that. It's not like the U.S. where the federal government's laws supersede. In Europe, their treaties say you eventually, within 2 years, need to pass local laws to conform with this. And there's a lot of shenanigans that go on then. So they don't pay attention enough at the top level when the laws get passed. And bad stuff happens. Bad stuff happens. Anyway, Pedro, we're coming to the end of the show here. I've got a 2 o'clock phone call again, too. We are going to play those kick tracks, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you so much for coming in. Also, what's happening tomorrow?
Dar baby, we're not going to blast it in your ear this time.
At least we'll try not to.
we will try not to, exactly.
What's happening tomorrow, man?
Tomorrow is Friday, isn't it? Full Rant Friday?
Yes, sir.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Enjoy our new space studio here. Tried to change things up a little bit here. And yes, AI designed this room for me. Just lovely. I love being able to go to Grok and say, give me a nice, cool space lounge. And this is what it comes up with. Pedro and I have not been doing the space lounges lately. Just been busy here. Busy and stuff. And maybe we'll talk about that. You should see some, Pedro and I are going to spend some time the next couple of weeks figuring out how to restructure our show, bring you some more live trading and that type of stuff. And probably change things up a little bit. It's always good to do that. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, tomorrow is Full Rant Friday. So Pedro and I will see you there. So be there. You know what, Pedro? I am going to re-rack that because you know why? I love the sound at the beginning and I didn't have it on. So everyone be there. There we go. Bong. Pedro, you probably didn't hear that, but